What's up, guys? It's Rey-Jay back with another video, and in this one, I want to break down what's happening with SPY, Tesla, Nvidia, the QQQ, and a couple of other tickers. I'm going to break down what's happening with the market moving forward as we have big factors coming out for the news, not to mention new pieces of economic data for tomorrow. But just note that I am not a financial planner, so take nothing I say as financial advice. And also, if you guys can, please check out the Webull link. If you deposit any amount of money, you're guaranteed 12 free stocks. If you deposit $500, you're guaranteed 20. And if you deposit $25,000 or more, you're guaranteed 75. The offer ends very soon, in just about 4 weeks from now. Anyways, now let's talk about the market. So I just wanted to mention that right now we're looking for a nice rebound on SPY. We have this resistance at 570. We also have our 0.76 retracement area in the 572s, It's a very low 572s. So we could be looking to see a little bit of a rebound attempt, but I don't think it's going to last very long. I still hold the view that this is going to be followed by a big rejection, and SPY will eventually make its way down much lower. So we'll see where this thing tries to top. A top should be coming very soon, and I believe that there's going to be another rug pull. I'll break down exactly why I think that and some very, very key levels to watch for. But let's first talk about the economic data. So tomorrow is going to be Thursday, October 3rd, 2024. We have some times where we have big data coming out. The first time worth mentioning is 1 hour before market open. We have continuing and initial jobless claims coming out. This might cause some volatility, but it's not that significant. We also have the S&P Global Composite PMI and Services PMI reports at 9:45 a.m. Might cause some volatility as well. So look for some volatility with the next PMI report. But then the big thing and the big time to watch for volatility is going to be 10 o'clock a.m. Eastern Standard Time, 30 minutes after the market ends up opening, because we have the ISM Services PMI, business activity, employment, and new orders all coming out. So this will give us more insights on what the services sector is looking for the economy, how is business activity, how are things looking for employment. It's going to be very key for the markets. So I'm expecting a very, very big move after this data comes out. Besides that, we have like bill auctions and a couple of Fed speakers, but it's all quite minor. The main time for volatility tomorrow is going to be 10 o'clock a.m. Eastern Standard Time. All right. So for the markets right now, I'm seeing that greed is making up the majority of sentiment. There's still greed in the markets. There's buyers still defending us. And the S&P 500 is not that far from all-time highs. However, like I said in my previous videos, I don't think we're going to be surpassing them. I think that the market's in a topping process. And I still anticipate more downsides coming because of seasonality and many other factors out there. So that's what my view is. Momentum is still at greed as the market has tried to rebound, but we're not at extremes yet. And I still think the market is still at a risky position, especially as other indicators are in extremes. So, for example, the put and call option ratio is at extreme greed. This is showing us there's been so many buyers stepping in into the markets. Call buyers are still present. We're not seeing as many shorts piling in yet. We're going to be watching to see if this shifts when the market starts dipping lower. That could be very, very key for the way things are moving. But generally, when we see this much of a ratio for the past 5 days reaching lows like this is when the market tends to find its tops. And I still think we're in a topping process. The VIX is still neutral. We'll be watching to see if this shifts, so I'll be very, very careful with that. I don't see anything else that's too significant, at least for us moving forward. For other factors out there, there's still a lot of tensions going on involving Israel and Iran. I want to mention that Israel is saying that they want to form a retaliation against Iran after what just happened yesterday. Not saying this all started with them or anywhere else. This goes back hundreds of years, if not thousands of years. So I'm not picking any sides. I'm just saying that this is what's happening after what happened yesterday specifically. One thing that was worth mentioning is that they haven't officially done anything yet in retaliation. They're saying they're planning on doing it, so we'll see how that goes. On top of that, I want to mention that President Joe Biden came out. He mentioned that the U.S. is going to support Israel and their endeavors, but they will not support them basically going after Iran's nuclear program. So it's very important to note the U.S.'s aid is there, but it's not unlimited. And we're going to be watching to see what happens at least over the next couple of days with this. It's obviously a very tense situation, and we have to be very careful. There's still a lot of news coming out involving the dock workers. They're still going on strike, and this may involve about 45,000 members and about 36 different ports from very close to where the Gulf of Mexico happens to be to Maine. So across the USA, this is going to be very key. We'll see how this affects prices and supply chains. This could be a big factor for many different companies. So I'm waiting to see what the reactions happen to be. So that being said, it looks like the news was very scary on Monday and also Tuesday as the market saw these dips. But the thing is, with the market dipping the way it has been for the last couple of days, I want to make it very clear that the fears have subsided just a little bit, and we may have to look for a new catalyst. So the market's going to choose what that catalyst is. Is it going to be because of the strikes that are going on? Is it going to be because of what's happening with Israel? There's going to be another catalyst that's going to be dipping the markets again. I think the trend is more bearish. I think the market's about to turn, and I think that there's going to be something very interesting brewing. So what happened was SPY had this high up here in the 575 area. We came down, made a lower high, came down, made a lower high, and I think we're about to establish a lower high somewhere here before we continue lower all the way down to these lower levels. I think that's the most likely case. So what is my view? It's also very possible we're trying to form kind of like a head and shoulders right here. This could be like a left shoulder. This could be like our head. And we could be trying to form like a right shoulder before we continue to dump. We'll be watching that as well as another possibility. But what is my view? We're looking at 570's resistance. This is going to be our 20 EMA right here. If we get above 570 around that area, the 570 area, like right around here, we're looking for basically the 572s to be coming. This is where we have the next tough resistance area. So 572 is going to be coming next. If we break 570, 572 is where we also happen to have the 0.786 retracement area. So it could go up there to reject if we break 570. If we can't break that, that's where we're going to be rejecting as well. So I think SPY will reject off either 570 or 572. We'll be watching to see which one it is. For confirmation of rejection, you want to see us lose 567.74, the 50 EMA. So that's going to be our main support. So right here where this yellow line is, this is our support. If this fails us, we go straight down to 565, just like how we did today. And then if that fails, that's when we turn really bearish. That's when we're going to be looking for a dump to the low 560s. If 565 breaks, we get a rug pull, and this thing is going to be dumping a lot more. So I hope that's as clear as possible about these levels. Lose 567.75 to 50 EMA. We turn a little bit more bearish, and we turn a lot more bearish if we lose 565. Break 570, we could push even more, but I'm not expecting it to push way more from here. I still think we're in a topping process. That's my view as long as we don't break past the all-time high. So what do I think is going to happen? I think that tomorrow, depending on the catalyst, because I can't predict all the news involving Israel and everything else like that, but I can tell you this: what's most likely going to happen is this thing pushes for 570. I don't know if we break that or not. It's very tough right now. But if we do manage to somehow break it, we'll be looking for 572. It tries to go a little bit higher, but then this could be a very, very nice opportunity for this thing to get a big rejection as they're grabbing liquidity, triggering stops for a big move down by Friday, which would take us all the way down to the lower 560s. I believe that's a very, very probable outcome. For us to kind of pop to either 570 or 572, then reject and see a bigger move down. That's the most likely case in my opinion. We'll see if that ends up being the case, but that's what I'm seeing at least for the time being. For ES, I'm seeing something very similar developing. This is trying to rebound, but what you'll find very interesting is the fact that we have these key levels. So these are some key levels to watch for, especially as we approach this 5780 area. We could take a Fibonacci retracement just like this and start from this top right here. What you'll find is that we are pretty far from that 0.786. The 0.786 is close to the 5800 area. It's almost exactly there. So I think it's very simple what's about to happen. Okay. We have, by the way, resistance at 57.75 our 20 EMA. And then if we end up losing 57.50, I'd anticipate a lot more downside. So just to be clear, but I think what could be happening is we attempt to go a little higher to 57.80, and somewhere between 57.80 and 5800, we do form a top somewhere in this range. This thing tops, and then we'll be watching to see if we get a rejection. So somewhere in this range, this thing may be forming a top before we get that rejection. So a little pop and drop, and this could start to dip even lower. I also want to call out that regardless of where we go, whether we get close to 5800 or not, we have this gap to fill. I think we will eventually come down to fill this gap all the way down here around 56.36 over the next couple of weeks. Within a week or two, we should fill that gap. So there's going to be downside coming no matter how high we try to go. I still anticipate the downwards move. For Nvidia, Nvidia is currently at 120 a share. It's trying to rebound, and I do see a little bit of a potential now for it to try to go a little higher. We have this imbalance that's trying to fill, so we have 120 as a key level. If we hold this, we're looking for basically 122. If we lose 118.8, we're looking for a dump back down to 116.9. My gut is telling me we're going to try to push above 120 to push up to 122, and we'll see if we get a rejection off this or not. So look for a little bit of a push towards 122, and we'll see if we reject. That's going to be very, very critical for the way things end up moving for this stock. However, I'm not saying the upside move is going to last forever. It might just be a temporary move. So watch for an attempt to rebound tomorrow morning. We'll see if we get a rejection. If we end up losing 116.94 after the rejection, we're going to be dumping down to 114. That's where we have that gap to fill. So that's very, very probable. For others out there, we have Bitcoin, which is on a bit of a downtrend right here, kind of rejecting. We could attempt to kind of balance a bit towards 61,000 around that area, the low 61,000s. If you get that rejection, we're looking for a big move down all the way down to the 59,300 area. So we could rebound a bit, then reject. As long as we don't reclaim at 62,000, we favor the downwards direction. We could pop and drop as the most likely move. And I still think we will be making our way down to the 59,000s. For others out there, we have Tesla. So how was Tesla looking? We had deliveries. Some sources were saying that Tesla missed. Others are saying that they just barely met. In my opinion, I think that it's more of a meet. They didn't really beat as strongly as many investors were hoping for. They did about 462,000 deliveries. I was looking at sources yesterday that were expecting 462,000, so it makes sense why some sources are kind of mixed. But it doesn't matter. It doesn't matter. Did they beat? Did they barely meet or anything like that? It doesn't really matter as much to me. What matters more is how are they growing, at least for the long term, and they're still showing some signs of good steady growth. Now, as far as Tesla goes, we have 248 as our support. If this fails us, we could be dipping all the way down to 244. If we hold this, we could attempt to rebound for 250 all over again. To me, Tesla looks a little bit weaker here. There's a good chance it comes down to 244, but we'll see if we bounce off that or not. So look for a little pop to 250 tomorrow morning, and then dip to 244, and we'll see what the reaction happens to be. For NQ, we're looking at resistance around 20,070 and 20,100. If that breaks, we're looking for 20,200. I think that NQ could attempt to rebound to this range between 20,100 and 20,200, close to our key fib levels. But then there could be a rejection coming as we still have a lot of downside potential and we still have this big gap to fill. So I think what's going to happen is we rebound a bit to the 20,100, if not 20,200, and then we get that rejection. That move is likely going to be coming back down towards 19,700, close to the 200 EMA. For the QQQ, we look more bearish. We're making a downwards move right over here. We're on a bit of a downtrend. However, it could attempt to rebound a bit. Our key fib level is going to be right over here. We can start with this wick, or we could just start from here. It doesn't really matter. But basically, I do see us potentially getting closer to about basically this 484 areas are resistance. If we do break that, we could get closer to 486 and then get that rejection. So I think either 484 or 486 is where this thing may top. And then if we lose 481.5, we're looking for a dump back down. I think we test 484 tomorrow morning. Maybe we go a little bit higher, just a bit more. And I think this thing is going to eventually fail and make its way back down to 480. And eventually we will come down to fill this gap around 475. May take a while, but look for some upside first, a little bit of a push tomorrow morning. Then the rejection is likely going to be coming. For Aapl, we have 227.5 as resistance. If this breaks, we're looking for basically the 229 area. It is possible we end up testing 227.5 to 229, and then we reject off that and start dipping lower. I also want to call out that Aapl has this gap down here. We haven't fully filled this gap. We have a gap to fill at 222. I think this might try to pop for 228 or so and then start dipping lower, and we still are going to likely make a move down. That's what my view is for the broader markets, for the main five I typically talk about. Let's talk about a few more. Palantir is doing a good job at holding up. I was worried about this head and shoulders, but still holding up at resistance. We're at this resistance at 37.5. We will have to see if this rejects or not off this area. This is going to be our main resistance. Our support happens to be over here around this 36 area. So this is kind of like our new range. If 37.5 breaks, we're looking for basically 38. If you reject here, we're looking for a dip back down towards the 36s. My gut tells me this could kind of pop and then drop back down to 36.93. And we'll see how things end up going from here. Let's look at 37.5 and see if we get that rejection and watch to see what the reaction happens to be. We're at resistance, so see this very, very clearly, and we'll be very, very patient nonetheless. For Super Micro, we're attempting to rebound. We're back at 42.05, but this could still get that rejection, just like Nvidia. I could see it get up to about 43.18 or a little bit higher before it comes back down, but nonetheless, the downside move is still very, very prominent. For Rivian, can be looking for a test of 11.03 for a little bounce tomorrow. Might try to get closer to 11 before it tries to reject. So look for a little bounce tomorrow. This thing dropped really hard. It's due for that as we're seeing liquidity being drawn. And I think that this could be attempting for 11.03 before it tries to make a different direction. For so far, we're rejecting off here off the 7.8 area. If this rejects, we'll be dipping back down towards 7.5. If we break this, we're looking for basically an attempt to get back up to 8. We're at resistance right here. It could go a little higher, closer to about 7.89, but I still think there's going to be a rejection coming and a move back down towards 7.6. For the IWM Russell 2000, we're on a bit of a downtrend right here. We're continuing to make lower highs and lower lows. We have this resistance at 218. If it rejects here, we could be dipping back down towards this imbalance at 216. If this breaks, we could be pushing higher. So watch to see if we hit this and reject, and we could be coming back down towards 215. So watch that carefully. I think the IWM has that risk of downside, especially as we have this gap to fill down here. For now, it's going to try to push for 218 and then 220. But then we could reject off that zone. We're making our way back down. I still hold the same view. AMD is looking more bearish as we're continuing to reject. We're looking at 158.5 as our support. If that fails us, we could be tipping all the way down towards 155. The resistance at 161, I still think the odds favor the downwards move towards 158, so it might dip a little bit more. ARM is trying to rebound. We could get very close to about 140, then reject back down. So I think we could push a little bit higher for 140, and we'll see what kind of rejection we get from there. For Coinbase, we look a little bit more bearish. We've been making a bit of a downtrend here. We have 168 as resistance, followed by 171. Our main support's at 160. I think we could pop it and start dipping lower towards the 160 area, and the odds do favor that, so be careful. I'm still seeing weakness on coin. Pop and drop towards 168, then a rejection is likely the most likely case. For Amazon, we have basically 186 as resistance and 187.13. We have support down here around 184. If that fails us, we're looking for 182.87. My guts tells me this may attempt to rebound for that 186 target, maybe a little bit higher. Then we could be looking for a rejection and move back down towards the 182s. So look for a pump and a drop as the most likely rejection. And then also you could argue there's like a head and shoulders that's developing right here. So I could look for a little pop tomorrow for 187, but then I wouldn't be surprised if Amazon rejects and continues to make its way down. I think eventually it will be dropping to 178 over the next couple of weeks. Could pop first and end up dipping after that. We do have Prime Week coming up, Prime Day coming up soon, but for now we still look a little bit bearish. For Meta, we could be retesting 570. If we break this, we're dipping back down to 564. If we hold this, we could rebound for 576 again. So look for a test of 570 tomorrow. We'll see if we bounce or not. If we don't, there could be more downside. For Microsoft, we look more bearish. It's making lower highs and lower lows, continuing to downtrend. This chart's still looking more bearish. We got to reclaim 420 to trend back up. Otherwise, we're at risk of coming down towards about 414. For Google, we also look a little bit more bearish. We're kind of rejecting here. We're looking for a 166 as our support, followed by the 165 area. My gut tells me that 166 is going to be tested tomorrow. So a small dip, and we'll see if we bounce or not. But this might actually start dipping to the lower 160s. For others out there, we have DJT. I mentioned yesterday this should reject. We're looking for basically 115 or 15.5 as our support. We could be coming down to 15.5, and then if that fails us, we dip lower. It still looks kind of bearish to me. The VIX has been dipping a bit, but this could be forming a nice bull flag. So this could eventually try to get a breakout. I still think we have this gap to fill up at around 22, and this will break out soon. We'll see if it dips first before it tries to push higher, but there is more upside potential later on. For the 10-year, we're still kind of stuck right now, not really doing much. So this is not affecting the market as much. This could dip a little bit, which may be because of the fact that the market may pop just a little bit more. I'm not too worried about this. The dollar is remaining bullish, which is a bearish signal for the markets. We'll see how the dollar reacts to this resistance to around 101.8. If we continue to break out, this could remain bullish for the 102s, and that could be bearish for the markets. So far, the dollar looks bullish to me, so that's a bearish signal for the markets. So my view is the same. The market may try to push a little bit more, 570 to 572. In the 572 is where we have the 0.786 fib level. That's where I think SPY could end up topping, and then we should be looking for a rejection and a move back down. We still have some gaps to fill below, and the market's still in a very, very risky place. We will see what the next catalyst is as we wait for the news to unfold. So that being said, I just want to say I really appreciate you guys for listening. Please have a great day, and I'll see you guys very soon in the next one tomorrow morning. Have a good day, night, or evening, wherever you guys are around the world, and peace out.